My name is Erica Long, and I'm still not sure if what I did was brave or completely insane. I'm 29 years old. I work in operations for a healthcare startup. I've built my life carefully, methodically. I don't make impulsive decisions. I weigh things. I analyze. I look for proof, which is why this whole thing still feels surreal. Leo and I had been together for almost 2 years, living together for 8 months. On paper, we were solid. We had routines, shared groceries, inside jokes, Sunday morning coffee on the balcony. We were supposed to be building something permanent. At least that's what I thought. Leo works in marketing at a mid-sized tech company. His direct manager is a woman named Rachel, early 30s, polished, confident. The kind of woman who knows exactly how long to hold eye contact. I met her 3 times at company events, and every single time, something inside me tightened. It wasn't obvious, nothing dramatic, just proximity. Rachel stood too close to Leo when she laughed. Her hand lingered on his forearm. She'd tilt her head when he spoke, like she was studying him. The first holiday party I attended, I watched her hover around him all night. Not other employees, not casually, just him. When we got home, I mentioned it. Rachel seems very comfortable with you. Leo didn't even hesitate. You're reading into it. I've never seen her touch anyone else like that. He sighed. Erica, she's just naturally friendly. You're being jealous. Jealous. That word lands heavy when you love someone. So I dropped it, because I trusted him. Or at least I thought I did. Then last month happened. Leo came home and casually mentioned he was going on a 3-day business trip to Austin. With Rachel, he added. My stomach flipped. Just the two of you? It's a huge client pitch. She requested me specifically. Why not bring another team member? Because she trusts my work. He said it like I should be proud, and I tried to be. But something about it felt orchestrated. I asked a few more questions, calmly, carefully, and Leo exploded. He accused me of being controlling, of sabotaging his career, of not supporting his growth. The fight lasted 2 hours, 2 exhausting circular hours. He stormed out and stayed at his sister's place that night. The next morning, he came back acting like nothing happened. Too calm, too rehearsed. That's when I started noticing the details. The way he angled his phone away from me. The way he flinched when Rachel's name popped up. The way he'd say he was working late, but come home smelling faintly of perfume that wasn't mine. The real moment came 2 days before he left. He was in the shower. His laptop was open on the kitchen counter. A notification appeared. A reservation confirmation. A steakhouse in Austin? 8 p.m., second night of the trip. Table for 2. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't confront him. I just absorbed it. Then, the night before his flight, he posted an Instagram story. Black background, white text. I belong to myself, not anyone's property. I must have read it 20 times. It felt like a declaration. Not independence. Permission. That night I didn't sleep. I lay next to him listening to his breathing and replaying everything. The late-night texts, the defensiveness, the steakhouse. By morning, something inside me had shifted. He kissed my forehead before leaving for the airport. Don't overthink things, he said. I smiled. I won't. He didn't call that night. When I texted asking how the first day went, he replied 8 hours later. Super busy, talk tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. By day 3, I wasn't anxious anymore. I was clear. Our lease was in my name only. Leo had bad credit when we moved in. We'd agreed I'd handle the paperwork and he'd transfer me his half monthly. The lease was up for renewal next week. When the leasing office called, I told them I wouldn't be renewing. Then I started researching storage units. The strange thing? I felt calm. Not angry. Not hysterical. Just done. I spent the entire next day packing Leo's belongings. Carefully. Folding his shirts neatly. Wrapping his framed photos in bubble wrap. Labeling each box precisely. If this was the end, it would be clean. Documented. Undeniable. By the time his flight landed the following evening, everything was already in storage. And I was sitting in the lobby of our old building, waiting. Leo walked through the lobby doors like he owned the air in the room. He had a small rolling suitcase behind him, his shoulders loose, his face sun-kissed in a way that didn't match 3 days of high-stress client meetings. His hair looked freshly styled, his hoodie was new, and his smile was too easy. Like he'd just had the kind of weekend that refills you. Then he saw me. His expression changed in 3 beats. Confusion first, because I wasn't upstairs. Panic next, because his brain started sprinting through possibilities. And then, for half a second, something darker flashed across his face. Guilt. But Leo was quick. He rearranged his features into irritation like it was a jacket he'd worn before. Erica, he said, dragging my name out. loud enough that the front desk attendant looked up. "What are you doing down here? Why aren't you answering your phone?" "My phone's off," I said. He let out a sharp laugh. "Are you serious? I just got back from 3 days of hell." 3 days of hell. I watched him say it without blinking. The lie wasn't even the worst part. It was the confidence. The expectation that I'd accept whatever version of reality he handed me. "We need to talk," I said. Leo shifted his suitcase handle tighter. "Okay, then talk. What is this?" "The relationship is over." He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. Then he actually laughed again. Short, disbelieving, like I was being dramatic for attention. "You can't be serious." "I am." He stepped closer, lowering his voice like this was a private conversation, like he still had the right to manage my emotions. "Erica, you're doing this because of Rachel? Because you got insecure about my job?" I didn't flinch at her name. I didn't do the thing he expected, didn't raise my voice, didn't beg, didn't list evidence like I was pleading a case to a man who'd already decided I was irrational. Instead, I said, "Your stuff is in storage." The calm in my voice made him pause. "What?" I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. "Storage Unit 247, secure space on 5th Street. Here's the key. Here's the paperwork." Leo stared at it like it was a threat. "You moved my stuff?" "I packed it," I corrected. "Carefully. Everything is labeled." His face tightened. "Where's the apartment key?" "I turned it in." Now he went still. The silence stretched, heavy and wet, like a storm cloud forming directly above us. Leo looked around, suddenly aware of witnesses. The front desk attendant, a couple by the elevators, a delivery guy scanning his phone. He forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Erica," he said through his teeth. "What are you talking about?" "The lease was up for renewal," I said. "It was in my name. I didn't renew." His mouth opened slightly. You can't do that." "I already did." For a moment, Leo just stared at me, like the reality wasn't landing because it didn't match the script he'd written in his head. Then the anger hit him like a delayed wave. "Are you out of your mind?" he hissed. "That's illegal. You can't just, evict me? Like I'm some stranger?" "I didn't evict you," I said. "I ended a relationship and chose not to renew a lease that was mine." He stepped closer again, voice rising. "You're psychotic. Do you hear yourself? You're abusive." Abusive. There it was. The word people throw out when control slips from their hands. He looked around again, louder now, performing outrage. "Everyone can hear you, Erica. You're making a scene. Give me the keys. Right now." "There are no keys," I said, and my voice didn't shake. "It's not our place anymore." Leo's hands curled into fists. Then he did something that made my stomach drop. Not because it surprised me, but because it confirmed everything I needed to know about who he really was when he didn't get his way. He pulled out his phone and started dialing. "I'm calling the police," he said, staring at me like he wanted fear to crack my face open. "This is theft. This is illegal eviction. You're going to regret this." "Go ahead," I said. And he did. He paced the lobby while the phone rang, giving the front desk attendant a dramatic look, like he was the victim of some dangerous woman who'd snapped. I sat down again. I didn't chase him. I didn't beg him not to. I just waited. 20 minutes later, 2 officers walked in. One younger, one older. The older one had tired eyes, like he'd seen 1,000 versions of this exact scene and never once been surprised. Leo rushed toward them immediately. "Thank God," he said, voice shaking on purpose. She locked me out. She stole my things. I just got home and she's sitting here like this is normal." The officers looked at me, then at him, then at the envelope in my hands. "Ma'am," the older officer said calmly, "can you explain what's going on?" Leo cut in before I could speak. "She's controlling. She's been doing this for months. She's jealous of my job, and now she's trying to destroy my life." The younger officer's eyes flicked to me, measuring. I stood up slowly and handed the older officer a folder. "I can," I said. "Everything is here." Leo's face twitched. The older officer opened it and started flipping through. "Lease agreement. My name only. Documentation from the leasing office about non-renewal. Receipts from the storage unit rental. Photos of packed boxes, neatly stacked, labeled. A transfer confirmation returning Leo's portion of the security deposit to his account." The older officer didn't react much. He just kept turning pages. Leo shifted on his feet, his confidence draining in small, invisible drops. "This doesn't matter," Leo snapped. "She still can't do this." The older officer finally looked up. "Sir," he said, voice even, "this is not a criminal matter." Leo blinked hard. "What?" "This is a relationship dispute," the officer continued. "She hasn't stolen your property. She stored it and provided you access. The lease is in her name. She chose not to renew. That's not illegal." Leo's mouth hung open like he couldn't process someone not siding with him automatically. "But he stammered. "She's trying to ruin me." The older officer gave him a look that said, "No one is ruining you but you." "You'll need to work this out between yourselves," he said. Leo turned red. The younger officer shifted awkwardly, like he wanted to disappear. They asked if either of us felt unsafe. We both said no. The officers left. And the moment those doors closed behind them, Leo's posture changed. His voice dropped. His anger softened into something else. Not remorse. Not regret. Recognition. Like he was seeing me for the first time, not as his girlfriend, not as someone he could debate into submission, but as someone capable of walking away without begging. He stared at me, swallowing hard. "You really did all this while I was gone?" "I really did." His voice came out quieter. "Why?" I held his gaze. And then I said the line that had been sitting in my chest since the moment I saw his Instagram story. "Because you're right, Leo." His eyes narrowed. "What?" "I belong to myself," I said softly. "And apparently, that means I don't belong in this relationship anymore." For a second, he looked like he might speak, like he might try to twist it, but nothing came, just silence. And behind that silence, a crack, because he knew. He knew exactly why I did it. He knew what Austin really was. He knew what that dinner reservation meant. He knew what he'd been doing every time he called me jealous instead of honest. Leo took the envelope from my hand like it burned. Then he looked at me one last time, searching for something, an opening, a weakness, a sign I'd collapse into tears. I didn't give him one. He turned and walked out of the building with his suitcase, and I sat back down in the lobby, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Not heartbreak, not rage, relief. For a few days after the lobby scene, everything was quiet. Too quiet. No angry texts, no dramatic voicemails, no social media subtweets, just silence. And honestly, I preferred it that way. I expected grief to hit me like a delayed freight train. I expected to wake up in the middle of the night, missing the weight of Leo beside me. I expected to question myself. Instead, I felt lighter, like I'd finally stopped holding my breath. 3 days later, my phone rang. It was Daniel. Daniel and Leo had been friends since college. He and I weren't especially close, but we were friendly enough. When I answered, his voice sounded tense. "Erica, I need to tell you something, and you're probably going to hate me." I leaned back on my couch. "Okay." He exhaled sharply. I should have said something sooner. My stomach tightened, but not in the way it used to. "When?" I asked quietly. "About 6 weeks ago," Daniel said. "I was at La Belle downtown for a client dinner. When I was leaving, I saw Leo and Rachel." I closed my eyes. "Together?" "Yeah, corner table, not business energy." He hesitated. "They were holding hands, Erica." There it was, the confirmation my body had already known. "I watched for a minute because I thought maybe I was misreading it," he continued. But Rachel was stroking his arm. He leaned across the table and said something that made her blush. It wasn't subtle. A strange calm settled over me. I didn't cry. I didn't gasp. I just felt validated. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "I almost did," Daniel admitted. Like 3 times. But I kept thinking maybe it wasn't my place. And Leo always talked about how sensitive things were between you two lately. I didn't want to cause drama if I was wrong. I understood. No one wants to be the person who detonates a relationship. "When you told me about the Instagram story and the Austin trip," he said quietly, "everything clicked." It clicked for me too. The dinner reservation. The defensiveness. The way Leo framed everything as my insecurity instead of his secrecy. It hadn't started in Austin. Austin was just the escalation. After I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. Not replaying memories. Just letting the truth land fully. 6 weeks. For at least 6 weeks, Leo had been emotionally and physically, probably, somewhere else. And still sleeping next to me. Still letting me plan our future. Still letting me question my sanity. That night I didn't feel rage. I felt something colder. Clarity. A week later, he showed up at my new apartment. I don't know how he got the address. I hadn't given it to him. I hadn't posted it. I hadn't even told most friends. But there he was, standing outside my building, looking wrecked. His hair was messy, his eyes were red-rimmed, his jaw looked like he hadn't shaved in days. When I opened the door halfway, he didn't try to push inside. He just looked at me like he'd lost something he didn't expect to lose. "Erica," he said softly, "can we talk?" I stayed in the doorway. "You have 5 minutes." He nodded quickly, like he'd rehearsed this. "I messed up," he said immediately. "Okay, I messed up. Rachel, she manipulated things." I almost laughed. "Manipulated," I repeated. "She made it seem like there was something real there," he rushed. "She told me she was unhappy in her marriage, that she felt trapped. She said I was different." Marriage. The word hit me sideways. "She's married?" I asked. Leo swallowed. "Yeah, that explained a lot." "And Austin?" I asked evenly. His eyes flicked away. It wasn't supposed to be like that, he said. I thought maybe we'd figure things out. I was confused. Confused. The universal excuse. Did you sleep with her? I asked. He hesitated. That half-second pause was louder than any confession. Yes, he said finally, barely audible. There it was. The truth, stripped of all narrative. And how long? I asked. He rubbed his face. 2 months, but it wasn't serious. 2 months. While telling me I was paranoid. While telling me I didn't trust him. It meant nothing, he insisted quickly. It was just excitement. I didn't think it would go this far. Far? I asked. She ghosted me after Austin, he blurted out, anger slipping into his voice. Came back to the office and acted like nothing happened. Stopped answering my texts. Avoided me in meetings. She said she changed her mind about leaving her husband. There it was. Not remorse. Rejection. He wasn't devastated because he betrayed me. He was devastated because Rachel didn't pick him. She promised me, Erica, he said, voice cracking. She said once you and I were over, we could be together for real. I stared at him. You were already over us, I said quietly. You just didn't tell me. He stepped closer instinctively, but I didn't move. I realized something in Austin, he said desperately. When you ended things, when I came back and you were just done, I realized I never wanted to lose you. I held his gaze. Leo, you didn't lose me. His brows furrowed. You chose someone else, and she didn't choose you. The truth landed hard between us. He flinched. I made a mistake, he whispered. No, I said gently. You made a series of choices. Silence filled the space. I'll go to counseling, he said quickly. Couples therapy, individual therapy, whatever you want. There's nothing to fix, I said. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Of course there is, he insisted. We had 2 years, Erica. That doesn't just disappear. It did, I replied. The moment you decided I wasn't worth honesty. Tears welled in his eyes. You're the best thing that ever happened to me, he said. And maybe he believed that. But loving someone isn't the same as respecting them. I hope you figure out what you want, I told him, but it's not going to be with me. That's when he broke it down fully. Crying, apologizing, swearing he'd change. For a moment, I felt the old pull, the version of me that wanted to comfort him, that wanted to fix everything. But that version of me had been slowly suffocating for months, and I wasn't bringing her back. When he realized I wasn't budging, his tears stopped abruptly. His face hardened. So that's it? He asked coldly. That's it. He nodded once, and then he left. I thought that was the end. I was wrong, because 3 days later, my boss called me into her office, and everything shifted again. When my boss, Caroline, called me into her office, she had that careful, neutral expression people wear when they're about to discuss something unpleasant but procedural. Erica, she said gently, closing the door behind me, I need to ask you about something. Off the record for now. My pulse stayed steady. Okay. She folded her hands on her desk. HR received an anonymous complaint. It alleges concerning personal conduct that could reflect poorly on the company. I didn't blink. What kind of conduct? She hesitated. Claims that you illegally evicted a romantic partner, that you destroyed his belongings, that you displayed abusive and unstable behavior. There it was. Leo. He couldn't control me anymore, so he tried to control the narrative. Caroline watched my face carefully. I know this doesn't align with the Erica I know, she said, but I have to ask. I nodded once. I have documentation, I said calmly. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. Within 15 minutes, I had my folder open again, the same one I'd shown the police. Lease agreement, non-renewal confirmation, storage unit contract, photos of labeled boxes, bank transfer receipt returning his portion of the deposit. Caroline read through everything in silence. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair. Well, she said dryly, that's thorough. I don't do chaos, I replied. A faint smile tugged at her mouth. HR will close this, she said. There's no misconduct here. But as I stood to leave, she added quietly, be careful, people who feel cornered sometimes escalate. I knew. An hour later, my phone buzzed. Maya. She didn't waste time. Erica, I'm furious, she said the moment I answered. At him or for him, I asked. At him, obviously. I exhaled slowly. Let me guess, I said. He's telling people I'm unstable. It's worse, she said. My stomach didn't drop this time. It just braced. Leo called me Sunday night, she continued. He was drunk, rambling about how you ruined his life, how you were going to regret humiliating him. Humiliating him. The irony was almost impressive. And then? I asked. Maya lowered her voice. He admitted the affair started 2 months before Austin. I closed my eyes. I know. There was a pause. You know, she asked. Daniel saw them at dinner. God, she muttered. And that's not even the worst part, Maya continued. Rachel promised him she'd leave her husband. There it was again. The marriage. She has 2 kids, Erica, Maya added. 2. I let that settle. Rachel hadn't just risked her job. She'd risked her family. And after Austin? I asked. She ghosted him, completely, apparently told him she was going to work on her marriage. So Leo had blown up our relationship for someone who folded the moment things became inconvenient. Maya exhaled sharply. He told me he feels used. I almost laughed. Used. The word people reach for when their fantasy collapses. And the HR complaint? I asked. Maya's voice hardened. That was him. He admitted it. Said you needed to face consequences for what you did. Consequences. For refusing to be lied to. For walking away. For not begging. Something shifted in me then. Not sadness. Not heartbreak. Anger. Not the explosive kind. The focused kind. He hadn't just cheated. He tried to sabotage my livelihood. That wasn't emotional confusion. That was retaliation. I spent that evening on the phone with a lawyer friend of mine, Nathan. Technically, it's defamation if he knowingly made false claims, Nathan explained. But unless it impacts your job materially, it may not be worth pursuing. Should I send a cease and desist? I asked. Document everything, he said. If he escalates, you'll want a paper trail. Paper trails. I was good at those. 2 days later, Leo texted me. Unknown number. I'd blocked his main one. I didn't think they'd take it that seriously. I was just upset. I stared at the message for a long time. He wasn't apologizing. He was minimizing. I typed back exactly one sentence. Do not contact me again. Then I blocked that number too. The next update didn't come from Leo. It came from Maya. You're not going to believe what happened, she said breathlessly. What now? Leo went to HR at his company. I blinked. And? He filed a complaint against Rachel. Sexual harassment, abuse of power, coercion. The audacity stunned me. He claimed she manipulated him into the affair? I asked. Yes, Maya said. He brought screenshots, texts, photos from Austin. I leaned back slowly. This was no longer messy. It was nuclear. And Rachel? I asked. She hired a lawyer within 24 hours. Of course she did. And she's fighting back. Apparently Rachel had been documenting everything too. Emails showing Leo initiating conversations. Messages where he flirted first. Security footage of him stopping by her office repeatedly. Phone recordings, legal in this state. Both of them had built cases, not out of love, but out of self-protection. Their company launched a full investigation. Within days, the entire office knew. Affair. Married manager. Subordinate relationship. Austin trip. Everything. And then Rachel's husband found out. Filed for divorce. And went public. The company they worked for prided itself on family values partnerships. The optics were catastrophic. By Friday, both Leo and Rachel were terminated. Professional misconduct. Violation of ethics. Abuse of authority. False reporting. I sat in my kitchen when Maya finished telling me. The afternoon light hit the counter in soft lines. It felt surreal. I didn't do anything, I said quietly. You didn't have to, Maya replied. Leo and Rachel had tried to manipulate narratives, to weaponize institutions, to shift blame. And in the process, they'd detonated each other. But it still wasn't over, because the following week, they started suing each other. If you had told me 6 months ago that the man I thought I would marry would end up in a legal war with his married manager, I would have laughed. Not because it was impossible, but because I never imagined I would walk away early enough to watch it all implode from a distance. The lawsuits started quietly. Then they didn't. Rachel sued Leo first. Defamation, emotional distress, intentional interference with her marriage. Her lawyer claimed Leo had pursued her relentlessly, that he'd pressured her, that when she refused to leave her husband after Austin, he retaliated by filing a false harassment claim. Leo countersued within days. Coercion, abuse of authority, hostile work environment. He claimed she manipulated him as his superior, that she promised career advancement, that she exploited her power dynamic. It was like watching two arsonists accuse each other of starting the same fire. Maya kept me updated, even though I told her I didn't need to know. You sure you're okay hearing this? She asked one night. I'm okay, I said. And I meant it, because here's the truth no one really talks about. When you leave at the right time, you don't feel devastation. You feel distance. Rachel's husband filed for divorce almost immediately, took the house, primary custody, half her retirement. The story leaked into a local business blog after he went public about ethical misconduct in corporate leadership. The company, trying to save its image, made an example out of both of them. Industry gossip spreads fast. Within weeks, recruiters were quietly passing on Leo's resume. Rachel's professional certification board opened a review into her conduct. They were radioactive, and I didn't have to lift a finger. The strangest part? Leo tried once more. One final attempt. A handwritten letter left with the concierge at my building. No return address. Just my name on the envelope. Erica. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. Inside, the handwriting was shaky. He said he'd made the biggest mistake of his life, that Rachel had destroyed him, that he should have listened to his gut about me, that he realized now what loyalty meant. He wrote that he missed Sunday mornings on the balcony, that he missed my laugh, that he missed who he was with me, not who I was, who he was. Even in apology, he centered himself. The last line read, "If you ever decide you want to talk, I'll be waiting." I folded the letter carefully, then I tore it in half. Not dramatically, just decisively, because waiting implies hope, and there was none. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. I met someone. His name is Daniel Reyes. Not dramatic, not chaotic, not mysterious. Just steady. We met through mutual friends at a small dinner. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. When he laughed, it wasn't performative. When he said he'd call, he did. There were no cryptic Instagram quotes. No, don't overthink it. No shifting narratives. On our third date, he said something simple. I don't play games. If I'm here, it's because I want to be. It shouldn't have felt revolutionary, but it did. I told him about Leo. Not every detail, but enough. He didn't flinch. He didn't get territorial. He just said, I'm glad you trusted yourself. That was it. No savior complex. No comparison. Just respect. Sometimes people ask me if I feel vindicated. If watching Leo and Rachel self-destruct feels like justice. And the honest answer? It feels neutral. I don't wake up smiling about their lawsuits. I don't celebrate their unemployment. I do feel sorry for Rachel's children. They didn't deserve collateral damage. But Leo, Rachel, they made choices. They lied. They manipulated. They tried to weaponize systems when their fantasy collapsed. I didn't ruin them. I removed myself. And without me absorbing the chaos, they had nowhere left to deflect it. That's the part people misunderstand about strength. It's not loud. It's not explosive. It's quiet boundaries. It's documentation. It's walking away without theatrics. If Leo had just told me he was unhappy, if he had said, Erica, I think I have feelings for someone else, it would have hurt, but it would have been clean. He could have left with dignity. Rachel could have made her choices openly. Instead, they built something on secrecy, and secrecy collapses under light. As for me, I sleep through the night now. No knots in my stomach. No second-guessing my instincts. When Daniel holds my hand, it's in the open. When he stands close to me, it's not a power play. It's partnership. The last time Maya updated me, she said Leo and Rachel are still in court, still blaming each other, still trying to salvage reputations. I wish them peace. From a distance. Because here's what I learned. You don't have to destroy people who wrong you. You just have to stop protecting them from the consequences of their own behavior. And sometimes, that's more powerful than revenge. This really is the final chapter. They eliminated themselves from my story, and I finally closed